If there's one thing we've collectively experienced in these past 18 months during the pandemic, is that our level of anxiety has increased. And for some of us, increased significantly. And therefore, there's a really important question to ask, and it's this: how do we calm yourself down when you feel anxious? Anxiety happens, and therefore it's important for us to have tools to go to really help us deal with that anxiety and to calm ourselves down. Today we're going to explore 5 great ways of calming our anxiety. Stay tuned, because at the end I've got a special audio meditation to help you expand and explore one of the tools we'll talk about. I'm Irvine Nugent, and I've been working with leaders for over 20 years, helping them explore different dimensions of their emotional intelligence so that in times of crisis, they are able to show up with clarity and with calm. And therefore, I've had to deal with this question so many times. How do we deal with our anxiety, especially when everything around us is chaotic? So today we're going to explore 5 different tools. The first tool is breathing. Now, you may have heard before that breathing is incredibly important, etc. And it is. Why is breathing so important? Because breathing helps us move away from our anxiety. You see, when we feel anxious, one of the things that happens is that our breath begins to become much more shallow. As our heart begins to beat faster, all our breathing turns into an area of fight or flight. We prepare because we may have to flee this danger. And so therefore, we can use the opposite breathing pattern to help us move from anxiety to calm. I want to introduce you to 2 breathing patterns that do that effectively. The first one is the box. So you imagine a box. It has 4 sides, all even in length. And so what we're doing is creating a breathing pattern. Choose a number. Let's start with 3 seconds. And so what we do is we breathe in for 3 seconds, the first side of the box. We hold it for 3 seconds. We breathe out for 3 seconds. We hold for 3 seconds, and we repeat. So let's do this together. So begin to breathe in for 3 seconds. Now hold it for 3 seconds. Now breathe out for 3 seconds. And hold it for 3 seconds. And you can increase the time. You can have 4, 5, 6 seconds. It's really up to you. But the wonderful thing about that breathing box is that it begins to help the body recognize that it's not under threat, and begins to calm down the nervous system of the body. The second breathing tool is called 4-8-7. And that's another breathing pattern which is effective in really activating calmness in the body. And so what we do is we breathe in for 4 seconds, we hold for 8 seconds, and then we breathe out for 7 seconds. If we take 3 or 4 minutes just to activate that pattern, you'll be amazed at how your body begins to feel calmer and your heart rate begins to drop. So there's the first tool, breathing, to help us introduce a new pattern in our body which helps us to calm down. The second tool is to use our senses. You see, the senses are a gift when it comes to helping us deal with our anxiety, because the senses help us truly to focus on something different than the emotional center of our brain. So let's just use the 5 senses. The first one is the sense of smell. I have a friend who, when he gets anxious, takes his favorite candle, which smells of mountain fir, and he smells it, and it helps him go into an imagination of him working in the forest, which is one of his favorite places to go to. Second is touch. Grab something. In grabbing something that we're able tactically to squeeze, it can help us move away from that emotional center. So maybe we've got a ball, a squeezy ball on our desk, and we're able to squeeze the ball. Or else we're able at times just to massage our hands, to touch it like this. This is a great way of moving from the emotional center of the brain and into something that's very tactile, like touch. The third area is our sight. Ask yourself, what scenery gives you calmness? Maybe it's a beach, maybe it's a forest, maybe it's looking at a tree. And put pictures of those around you that's easy to go to. And then you're able to look at that scene and through your sight to be able to introduce again another fixation apart from that which induces emotionality like our anxiety. The fourth sense is sound and our ears and listening. And so think of how music impacts us. Music can lift us up. Music can help us focus. So in times of anxiety, what we want to try and do is to use music patterns to help us calm down. So think of songs that just help you relax. Think of songs that just let the stress roll off you. And maybe create a playlist called Calmness, a playlist called maybe Focus, and you're able to go to that playlist. And then the final sense is taste. Research has shown that chewing bubble gum is actually incredibly impactful for reducing anxiety. So if you enjoy bubblegum, maybe have a bubblegum pack near you, and you're able to chew your way out of some of the anxiety that you're feeling. The third area is reframing. Very often when something happens and we feel anxious about it, we get into a mode of thought and we interpret the event in a certain way which causes anxiety. But it's also possible to take the meaning that we have given that event and to reframe it, and so therefore to move away perhaps from some of the anxiety we're feeling. Classic example of this is you're driving down the freeway and all of a sudden someone cuts in front of you. Think about it. You get all tense, you get anxious, you may even get angry. And so another way of reframing that is to give another interpretation for what just happened. So in one way you've just said, oh, this person is rude. They've just cut me off. But maybe another way of thinking about this is maybe they have an emergency. Maybe they've just found news that they have to get to. And that way we're able to reframe what's happened and give a different meaning to it. And in that reframing, it can evoke different emotions and help us calm down. Before I get to the next 2 points, I'd like to remind you to subscribe if you haven't done so already, to press the bell. You'll get a reminder when the next video comes out. I produce content weekly on different areas of emotional intelligence, helping you become better leaders at work and also at home. The fourth tool is movement. Movement can really help us move from the anxious part of our brains and into something that is physical and can help us detach from the emotionality of the moment. So different things will work with this. Sometimes people like to stand up and just shake their body for maybe 30 seconds. It's a great way of moving out of some of the anxious patterns. Maybe get out of the house, go for a walk. And in that way, you're also able not only to engage some movement, but also some of the other senses that are happening as well. And then thirdly as well, stretching can be a wonderful way of easing some of the anxiety. You see, when we feel anxious, one of the things that happens physically to us is that we become tense and that our body begins to close. And so therefore, stretching is a wonderful way of getting out of that tension and also increasing the space within our body. And the fifth tool is writing. Research has shown that people who write 5 minutes a day about their feelings and maybe about the anxiety that they're feeling have better results in alleviating some of the stress and the tension and the anxiety that they feel. And so therefore, if you haven't considered before, I invite you to consider perhaps just getting a journal and taking a cup of coffee or tea in the morning or some water and just beginning to write how you're feeling in that moment. Or perhaps whenever you're feeling a moment of great anxiety, to take some time out and just to write about the feelings that you're experiencing. Because what will happen in that is, once again, we're taking the feeling away from some of the emotionality we're feeling and we're putting it on a piece of paper, which has proven to be effective in reducing some of the impact of that anxiety. I have a great example of using one of these tools. I've been working with a leader now for a number of years, and he's going through an experience of great change in the organization that he's leading. And the executive team as well are suffering a lot from just the chaos that comes from change and also the anxiety that comes from change. And so we were talking about different ways of dealing with anxiety. And so one of the things that he said, you know what, I'm going to give one of these things a try at our next meeting. And so he began the meeting asking everyone to stand up, and everyone kind of started looking at each other. And he said, now I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I want everyone to spend 15 minutes and just shake their body, shake their shoulders, shake their arms, shake their limbs. And so everyone reluctantly agreed to do this. After all, he was the boss. And within about 5 or 6 seconds, all you began to hear was some laughter, he said. And then everyone started really getting into it. At the end of the meeting, he said, we had a 2-hour meeting and it went really well. But the one thing I heard back from most people was how wonderful it was to begin with this exercise, because it really helped people focus in on what they had to do and to leave some of the anxiety at the door. Anxiety is part of life, and there are times in our lives when the anxiety builds up and really begins to become more dominant in our lives. So hopefully today, these 5 tools will help you to really explore different ways of dealing with anxiety. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I have a free gift for you. And so one of the things I'd like to give you is what's called a body scan. It really helps you explore where are you feeling anxiety in your body. And once you know that, you can begin to choose perhaps a different tool to deal with it. You'll find out in the link below, and it will send you to an audio recording of about a 5-minute meditation, which will take you through a wonderful, powerful way to really explore how anxiety is showing up in your life. And if you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to explore the next one, which is how to become a better listener.